And glad to see you're feeling better.
Yes, I'm telling you. That one kind of worried me. I wasn't sure I was going to survive it. Hello, friends. Today, I'm bringing you a different kind of a video. Um, as my journey in YouTube has evolved, and more people have come along, and I have been a viewer of other YouTubers. What's happened is when you see a detailer doing something, for example, when you're spraying a chemical directly on a radio console, some detailers say you should not do that. Other detailers are like, it's not going to hurt anything. So it's simple little questions like that I felt they needed to be answered by somebody who knows how to work on vehicles inside and out. So I brought my daughter, Tori. Tori has been working on cars for many, many years. And I thought, you know what? These are perfect questions for her to answer. And maybe this will take some of the confusion out of it. But at the same time, people are going to be people and they're going to do what it is they want to do. And you're never going to be able to tell anybody anything. But I thought that maybe this is some information that we needed to put out. Tori, thank you for being here and agreeing to do this. We're doing this at 1 in the morning. She is at her job, one of the boring jobs, third shift, and I am all out of whack on my schedule because I'm just coming off of being sick. So, anyway, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Of course. And glad to see you're feeling better.
Yes, I'm telling you. That one kind of worried me. I wasn't sure I was going to survive it. That one did worry me the first few days.
Little sickness
Okay.
can't take you out.
Huh?
I said little sickness can't take you out.
Well, I like to hope so, but my gosh, I'm not getting any younger. Anyway, let's just start with allowing everybody to get to know you, but not through my eyes. I'm kind of biased. You are my daughter. And I have a tendency to, as a mom, and you know what I mean, as a mom
Yeah.
yourself, we kind of build our kids up, and we want everybody else to be as proud of them as we are. So, in your words, would you tell my friends about yourself and who you are as a person? What kind of life do you have? Nothing crazy. I mean, nothing real personal, but just kind of tell about yourself.
All right. Well, and I'll add a backstory in just to make it make sense as to how I am where I am. Um, Usually, well, I'm Tori. Like she said, I'm the daughter. I'm the middle daughter. Um, Me as a person, I'm just me. Like I always say, I'm me. I'm not gonna change being me, whether you like it or not. It's just who I am. It's who you should be. Period. I'm quiet in the beginning. Like I'm quiet just in general when I don't really know you. But the more time I spend around you, the more comfortable I get with you, the more the crazy comes out, the more the chaotic comes out. That's probably been a lifelong thing of me. But I also was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. So being a mom of 5 boys and being at home with them for 5 years, they kind of deep-seated even more chaos into me.
They can be chaotic.
Yeah, whether it's all of them or some of them.
Well, yeah, there's never in between. It's always bam or bam.
Yeah. When they were younger, being at home, younger babies, they take naps. At one point, I eventually did get a couple of them. They just started getting into school and being gone all day. but the younger ones would be sleeping, so I needed something to do. And being what little bit that I had seen my dad do when I was younger, because he would fix his own stuff the best he could. He would research it and spend weeks trying to fix his stuff. But he only lived a couple miles from work, so he always rode his bike when his truck broke. Um, so from watching him and just kind of getting a little bit of knowledge off of that, not really paying attention to what was going on, but somehow stuck. I want to say it was about 11 years ago when I really started getting interested in working on stuff. I had the tools, but I didn't have the knowledge. So where did I start? Best place to start, go buy a Haynes repair manual. The Chilton, Haynes, whichever brand you prefer, that tells you the ins and outs of what you drive. For me, I've got a whole collection of them now. I've got some of those for cars that I've never worked on, just because. But over the last, I want to say it's about 10, 11 years, just picking up more and more. A lot of it is experience from doing. If you don't know, Google is your friend too.
And YouTube.
And YouTube, yes. Well, I always ended up on YouTube from Googling it. Like you can, and I don't know if people have even noticed this, that you can Google a 15-word sentence and it'll still give you answers.
Okay.
So you don't have to like pinpoint it to just little bitty words and try to get it as smooth as possible. You can, hey, it's doing this and this and this, but not this. And you'll find your answers usually.
Yeah. Okay. I know early on you were always into cars. When we bought you gifts and stuff, we bought Elizabeth the dolls and the makeup and all that good stuff, and Becca too. Um, and Marshall, he just had his country western stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
your stuff was always weird. You were always the bigger tomboy, and yours was Hot Wheels and dump trucks and all of that good stuff. Um, was Did you always feel like that was what you needed to be doing, is working on cars?
Honestly, no. For a good part, when I was little, I was actually wanting to run a path towards vet medicine or a zookeeper, honestly. I wanted to go the animal route. Why I didn't, I don't know.
It probably just didn't kind of stick, maybe.
And
Well, go ahead.
I did recently like consider going back for that, but now it's like I don't think I can emotionally handle it. As much as hard as it is to say it, it's like I'd love to be there in that career field and do it, not just because it's not about the money when you go for stuff like that. It's taking care of them and helping them, but I couldn't emotionally handle it.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard just losing a personal pet
Hmm.
and to get to know them and get to take care of them. And I would also imagine that, if you can't fix them, that kind of, that would take me down. I know it would me. I don't know. I,
Yeah,
I just wouldn't be able to do it. But
that's my issues. I can't fix it, then like I panic. It's like I should have known. I should know how to do this. It's hand in hand with like working on a vehicle. Like, yeah, you get to this. I can't fix it. It's like I can't get this fixed. What's wrong? Like, what am I doing wrong? And you just on and on and on and on, trying to figure out what
right,
it is.
right. Well, and here's a little tidbit. You early, several, many, many years ago, I'm going to say, what, 10, 8, 10, 12, 8, 10 years ago, something like that. You were actually dabbling in detailing. whatever happened with that? Is there a reason you didn't pursue that?
Honestly, I don't know. It was more of a short-lived dream. It's kind of like a
An
it sounds
interest?
exciting. It sounds interesting and exciting, but it's like I think part of it was having the young kids at home and having to spend that time on it. I had to always stop and go and take care of something. Whereas,
Well, and you obviously still have it because you've helped,
mhm.
but you're a little more OCD than me. But that's a learned art. I will give you that because I am a perfectionist, and you have to learn how to not be perfectionist. And so I guess if you had to do it all the time like I do, that's probably something that you'd probably let go over time.
Probably.
Probably. But I just was kind of wondering, I know you were able to get that big stain out of the carpet in the pickup in the center there,
Mhm.
with just basic cleaning stuff. And then I thought about it when I was writing these questions. I wonder why she never got into that or pursued it. But I guess, yeah, you did have some pretty young kids at the time,
Yeah.
and that would make sense.
I mean, because
Okay.
when when I was doing the detailing stuff myself and kind of dabbling in it, I noticed that on my own vehicle, I would end up going 7, 8 hours just doing it on my own.
That's learned also. That's learned also. I mean, I did the same thing. It took me hours upon hours, the minivans, you know, it took me 8 to 10 hours just to do those darn things.
Yeah, it didn't help having a Suburban either, so
Yeah. But I mean, over time, and as you learn all the tips and the tricks and, what you're looking at and what to look for and things like that, it does start to, the time invested becomes less and you learn the tricks. And so your time invested in one spot is less. And you also learn not to be so ridiculous about the little things, or, uh, y- you not be so OCD about it, that kind of thing. But it does get better. It does take a little bit of time. It is something that you have to be doing quite
yeah.
a bit. Otherwise, yeah, it will take you a long time. Yeah, you did have a Suburban. So, yeah, Suburban, it would still take me about 5 hours to do a Suburban
Well, see,
now,
and the 8 hours was inside and out.
inside and out. Oh, see, and I'm not really, unless it's a rentals, I couldn't. I couldn't do the exterior. I mean, unless everything was already set up for me to um, get out there and do the exterior, it's going to take me forever. Just setting up the power washer and all that good stuff. But I don't know. But the inside would still take me, and that depends on the condition, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. It would just depend. Let's get into some of the detailing questions. Now, like I stated a little while ago, um, I see these comments. I've received these comments. I've also received other questions, and not being as experienced with some of these things that you might be, I thought I'd just pose the question to you and see what you thought. As a mechanic, you know,
Mhm.
um, there's a lot of detailers that have done unintentional damage. It happens. Recently I saw on the new Dodge pickups, their their drive buttons are like knobs on the console and they're fizzling them out. I mean, their steamer or whatever is fizzling them out and it's costing them about $300 to replace.
Wow.
Yeah. So, these are the kinds of things that maybe we as detailers, maybe we need to, maybe learn from somebody else to save ourselves the money, because this person may be paying $300, but this could be a bigger expense if something worse goes wrong. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So let me get into some of the things. This was something that I was getting a comment on many times in my early days. So in my early days, when I would start detailing, when I started, I would spray directly onto the radio console, the electronics. And I would also directly use the steamer on there. And people would tell me, and I have since seen it on other videos, other YouTubers, don't spray directly on there. Don't use the steamer directly on there. So my question is, uh, am I damaging something by spraying my spray on there, the chemical, or just the fluid itself? Is that hurting anything? Is that something that I need to be concerned about?
Well, I can start with saying aftermarket stereos, I wouldn't do it at all. Like the ones with the removable faceplates, I wouldn't. If anything, spray your spray on a rag. And since it's a removable faceplate, you can take the faceplate off and clean it like that and then put
Okay.
it back on.
Okay.
Because those faceplates, they can go out real quick. And then you're without a radio and you have to replace the whole thing. Because you
Okay.
can't just, unless you go to eBay or like, I don't know, some like scrapyard or something, you're not replacing just that faceplate.
Okay.
With factory radios, my experience is honestly, the older it is, honestly, the safer you are with spraying stuff on it.
Well,
Because
nowadays we have those LED screens. I don't know. I mean, I don't get the steamer real close anymore. But is that going to hurt the LED screens? I mean, or should I just use something basic, spray a little bit of window cleaner or whatever on my towel and do it that way? I mean, but getting around the edges, a lot of times there's a lot of dust in there. We may need to use a brush in there. Is that a bad or good idea or what?
they're pretty sealed. I mean, because you got to think about it. Drinks get spilled all the time. And some radios do sit lower. Those screens, like the one that you had in the car, like they sit up higher. Um, I would say with the screens, mm, it depends honestly on the age of the screens because like the newer ones are a lot touchier than older ones.
Okay.
The older ones have had more wear and tear on them, so you can carefully get away with. Don't sit there and like write on it with like steamer or drown it. If you're gonna spray anything on it at all, I would spray ever so lightly away from it, just a couple little sprays, and make sure you get it wiped out real good. Newer ones, I wouldn't do it at all. I would just some like Windex or something on the screens and around the corners because everything is so touchy now.
Yeah, it is. And you're right. I know that at the car lot, I work on some of the older cars, and so it's not that bad. But I notice, they're starting each year, the cars become newer and that they buy. And so I've noticed that where I've got more and more LED screens, and I've noticed that they're much touchier, and I could do damage on them if I'm pushing hard and
Hmm.
smacking that with something, or and I worry about moisture getting in there. I worry about the steamer touching it. I just don't do it anymore at all. But I did want to post a question, because there may be people out there that are just convinced, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, like older. I say, in my experience, the safest bit of like factory radios was spraying them, and I know this from not spraying them themselves, but from having an accident and a drink going flying. Is anything maybe late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, like the gold mine of the ones that are still running today.
Right.
And it don't matter, Chevy, Ford, Buick, all of them.
Okay.
They're all rock solid. You either the body outlasts the motor or the motor outlasts the body. You don't get both at the same time. You get one or the other.
One or the other.
But yeah,
Okay.
those factory radios are the ones that can withstand the most from what I've seen.
Okay. Okay. Well, so I guess my way is pretty solid, but I will still spray onto the console. I don't spray it heavy. Back then I did, but I was dealing with some pretty gross cars, so I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not. I can't handle this. Um, and I now use makeup brushes, and that makes it a lot easier. Okay, so what about now? I was kind of shocked when I was told to not do that. I was told not to spray any of my chemical into the air vents. And then I would spray the steamer. I'd run that steamer right into an air vent and allow it to go through the system. Now, I don't think it's hurting anything, but I was kind of shocked when somebody said, don't do that. You could hurt some of the mechanical stuff in there. And I'm going, what? So, as a mechanic, am I hurting something by spraying in there or even running the steamer in there? Because we do it all the time. As detailers, we do it all the time. A lot of YouTubers do it. That you can see steam going in here and flying out across the car. So, what do you think?
I'm trying to see where I'm trying to understand how people are getting that notion. Like, how do you, all the electronics in a HVAC system in a vehicle are down below.
Okay.
There's down below the vents, and they literally just flips doors.
Okay.
That's what they
Like,
do. Flip doors from face vent, defrost to your feet, and then it flips. There's one door that it flips between hot and cold.
okay.
I don't understand how steam is going to hurt those
And
because
fluids won't hurt anything, especially if you do it just before the steam, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's none of your stuff is even if you spray cleaner in it, it's not getting low enough
Okay.
to hurt it. If you're going to hurt anything, you're spraying the little motors themselves that are on the outside of the box. So
Oh,
logic.
well, yeah. Huh?
I said logic. Like
Oh,
it
you
don't
mean
make sense.
common sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of floored at that comment. Um, because of all places to say that I could mess up mechanicals, I'm thinking, well, hell, you could have said something about the firewall, and I'd have probably been okay. That's a legit response. But this was not an air vent, not an air vent. I don't know. It's just really weird. But I wanted to pose the question.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. What about airbags? Now, I have seen and heard, um, well, I've not heard. Well, actually, yes, I did. I did hear it from a YouTuber. He wasn't talking to me, he's saying it on his video. But in his video, he said, and others have commented, we need to be careful digging the dirt out of the little crevices and stuff where the airbags are. So my question is airbag issue a problem, or is that something we need to be a little more attentive to? Are we going to set off an airbag in our face when we're picking dirt out of a disgusting, nasty disaster car out of the top of the steering wheel? Because you're like, how did you get that dirt in there? You know, that kind of thing. Anyway, is air
Um,
Am I setting off an airbag? Could I?
The only thing that I've seen that could trigger airbags is in like newer than 2010, higher
Okay.
class. Like best example would be like a BMW. Don't go smushing on the steering wheel. Don't be putting pressure on them because you could
On what
because
is it? On what?
on being like BMWs because of they have fiber optic wiring.
Oh my God. What about Grandpa? It's an '09.
I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go smashing on it, but like with detailing and cleaning dirt out like the top of it, like you're saying, it's not going to be enough pressure.
Okay.
The
No, I don't
airbags,
usually have to. I keep it clean.
yeah, no, the airbags are usually triggered by sensors that are in certain areas around the car. Like for instance, with trucks, um, the newer ones they have airbags everywhere. Like I got them in the seats, the above your window, in typical steering wheel, the dash, just everywhere. They just now that when they blow, they create a cushion. Whereas like what I drive, you've got the steering wheel and the dash. You got faceplate airbags. That's about all you got.
That's what I've got in my pickup.
Yes. They do not have any type of airbag sensors in the back.
Okay.
It's really only
So it's like
uh
driver, it's like B pillar up.
yeah, like mine and yours only have them in the front, so it would be front end collisions would set the airbags off just because there's a sensor up under the bumper. So if you were to smack
Okay.
something hard enough, it's basically like a jolt sensor is what they are. Um,
Okay.
and those can usually be uh, identified as a little yellow box.
Okay.
That way you know where
Now
they're
the
at.
car, the Chevy Cruze,
Hmm.
there was airbag on by the windshield. They were up on the steering wheel. They were on the. They were gonna surround me. I wasn't moving.
Yeah, and those are, and they're all airbag sensors are all really underneath the car, underneath vehicles. They're not anywhere that like even when you're working on them mechanically, climbing all over the engine bay, you're not going to touch them.
Okay. Okay. So
But
maybe in the higher end fiber optic sensor vehicles, you probably want to be a little more attentive.
yes,
But airbag safety is not a big issue for what we're doing.
yeah, and I will say if you are worried about possibly setting off an airbag, unhook the battery.
Oh, well, there you go.
In the end, unhook the battery because that'll it'll disable the airbag because there's no power to it.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to completely disable it because people will worry about that one. I will say that it will not completely disable it. Hook it back up, everything's fine. It's just like turning
Okay.
off a light switch.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Now, that takes me to the next question, and that is personally, I don't think it's necessary for the most part. Um, this has been a, in my opinion, it's a huge liability. Um, is removing seats. Is it necessary? Obviously, it's not from a detailing standpoint, but is it a good idea? Should we be doing that? I mean, explain it from your side.
I personally would not suggest taking seats out unless you have a mechanical knowledge of some kind, even if it's just a little minute amount. I mean, because you got to understand tools. But removing seats, you've got a whole. The newer they get, it comes back to the new and old. The newer they get, the more sensors you've got in the seat. You've got plugs left and right for all sorts of things. You got seat heaters. You've got the lumbar support. the power seat options that move it around and adjust it, that you got to pay attention to, and make sure you unplug them before you start ripping them apart. Sometimes the older the vehicle, the more likely you are to have the mounting holes in the body where the seat attaches to rusting out, which could pose a problem for it going back in. The bolt won't go back in.
Okay. Not properly.
Yeah. Or you have to go the route of finding a longer bolt and a washer and a nut, and just it gets chaotic. So it's all depends on the age and the wear and tear of the vehicle. But
Now
honestly,
I heard that in some newer cars that when you pop those bolts from the seats, you have to buy new ones. You can't replace the old ones. You can't put them back.
I've never heard that one. But that depends on how new you're talking.
I don't know. I had just, it was a comment that I had seen from somebody else, and I'm thinking, oh crap. Well, I'm not taking seats out anyway, but you know, there are detailers out there who will and do regularly. Personally, I think it's just because two things. Number one, they don't know what they're doing with the seats in place. And number two, they're just trying to make an extra dollar. And I think that there's way too much liability involved. If something happens and they have an accident and one of those bolts breaks loose and that person is killed, that was driving that car or a passenger, it's the same as a baby seat. There's a baby seat in that car, don't you touch it. That kind of thing. But if
Yeah.
one of those bolts break loose because you screwed up and didn't get it in there right or whatever, you are liable for the life of that person. You could literally go to prison. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But anyway, I just kind of want to get your thought about that. Yes, obviously, the newer the vehicle, you're dealing with a lot of sensors. It's just not worth it. But with the older vehicles, you posed another issue that I never would have thought about, that the holes may be rusting out.
Or
I
the
never
bolts
would have thought of,
or the bolts rested in place.
well, yeah, that could be an issue too, I guess. See, I would have never thought about things like that, but I won't. I'm not taking seats out anyway.
No,
And
there's really
that
no need.
I have no problem cleaning the car with the seats in place. I just don't see any need for it. But I wanted to pose the question and see what you thought.
Yeah, no, there's really not a need to take them out. The only reason they would need to come out is if the carpet's getting replaced, and that's not a detailer thing.
Well, it could be. It could be. Hell, I've done every damn thing else there is. Headliners, painting the car, oh, now we got dent repair. I did a video on that recently, No, well, I wasn't doing the repair, but he wants me to, start learning all of those things. And I know it's a car lot detailer thing, but still, you never know. And you could be a multi-purpose shop instead of a detailer. You know what I
Fair
mean?
enough. Yeah, but you'd still want some inkling of uh mechanical knowledge to do it.
Okay. Well, I just kind of wanted to pose the question, just see what you thought. Okay, so let's move to the outside of the vehicle. Do engine bay cleanings help with the operation of the vehicle? Not operation. Yes, what am I thinking? With the running of the vehicle. Am I asking a question that makes sense?
Just keeping it clean I think I know what you're asking, but I can't put that into words.
I know I can't either. How about, let's see, is it does it help it for the motor to operate and function better?
Yes and no. It depends on what you're cleaning. If you're just cleaning the plastic covering, then no. That has no benefit to how an engine runs. Now, if you were to like take like a pressure washer and like spray,
And that's how many detailers do an engine bay cleaning. Me personally, I don't. I don't have the water source to do it anyway. But for a dealership detailer, I'm wiping that thing down and moving on.
you can improve and or maintain how well an engine's running with an engine bay clean, because you've got just dirt and gunk that builds up. There's grease on some bearings that over time will just get on stuff. Spraying it off with the pressure, like a pressure washer, would help. Even just like a little bit of like engine cleaner and the jet setting on a garden hose could help
Okay.
loosen some of that stuff up. However, you could also cause problems
Oh,
by
okay.
spraying water in there.
Okay.
Um, I always thought for the longest time spraying water in an engine bay was like a no-go because of all the electronics in there, regardless of how old it is. And then I go and see Scott go take his truck to the car wash and like full blow spray his truck out. And I was under the impression if you're going to start spraying water into the engine bay, you have to let it cool off, cover up any sensors, like cover up the alternator, the any type of little plug-in electrical sensors that are important. Distributor, if it's old enough to have one. Somewhat newer like mine, you'd have to cover up what are they? The injectors, like cover them up like a Ziploc bag, plastic bag, whatever. Scott's truck is older. It's an 88, 89. And he just goes in there full blow, sprays it all off, and starts it and goes. No problems whatsoever.
Even the distributor and all that?
Yeah, that one
Mhm.
got me. But once he explained it, it made sense.
Okay.
The only
Well,
thing you
I've always been told, and I've done a lot of research on it as far as YouTube is concerned and Google, because I didn't touch engines in the beginning. But 2004 and older, cover the distributor, alternator, whatever you want to call it. Anything 2004 and newer, you can spray.
is that what you were told? Is that what you're saying, or is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
I'm asking, is that still I found that from many different sources online, but is that still a good thought process? Because nowadays we have those plastic coverings and they cover like pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
But those plastic coverings were only over a couple of things up until 2003 or 4. And even in 2003, you only have something just to make it look better right over the main core of the motor. Spark plugs and all that good stuff. But is that still a good theory? Philosophy? How about that?
I would say not necessarily 2004, because my truck is a 2004. And it's got like one plastic cover on it, and it's just the little ProTech emblem right on top. Yours has the same thing, doesn't it? I think yours has that
No,
little plastic cover.
there's a little bit more on mine, I think, but not much.
Yeah, no, I would say probably 2006 or the 2007 classics like you have with GM specifically. I wouldn't know a year range on, honestly, because of my preferences. I wouldn't know a year range on Fords or like Buicks, Chrysler, like any of them. Everything I have is Chevy. I've had one Ford and I didn't know anything about it except how to drive it when I had that. So
Okay. Well, I'm just going to stick with that philosophy until you tell me otherwise.
yeah, no, I mean, like I said, Scott's truck being late 80s, he just goes full bore into it, sprays it off, starts it and goes. Distributor distributor wise, the plug wires will have a rubber boot on them, so they're covered up. Um, the cap itself has a lip on it from the top, so it would be sealed off. So unless you've got like loose, sketchy wiring, spraying the water in there, as long as you're not like holding it point blank, spraying it.
Okay.
Once it's cooled off. I will say that you have to let them cool off
Okay.
before you go and spraying them because
Now, should you let it run while you're doing this?
no, I wouldn't.
Okay. I
Because
just
you're gonna have a hot motor and you're spraying cold water on it, steam,
boom on the head.
and you're putting yourself at risk if you do it that way.
Okay.
Spraying cold water on a hot engine causes that steam, and that steam is doesn't feel very good.
So, you and I are working on a some kind of a solution to get me water up at the shop.
Mhm.
So what you're basically saying is when I go to pull up the hose and wash out the engine bay, I should do this after I've done the interior and allowed that to sit that 3 hours.
Mhm. I
Okay.
would.
Okay. That's fair. That's kind of what I was talking or what I wanted to know. And for those who are not aware, Scott is her other half.
Yeah, I
And
know.
and so and I did originally want him to be a part of this, and he is actually going to on another video. But I know that because we're doing this overnight, he's in bed because he's got to work. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so let me real quick make sure that I'm covering everything. One last thing on the engine bay. Um, Spraying the chemicals and the cleaners, is that going to hurt any of that? I mean, no, I've never seen anybody use an acid base, but we do use APCs and stuff. Spraying that on there and foaming it or whatever, it's not gonna harm it, is it?
No.
No.
My
Okay.
experience from what I've done, all the engine bay cleanings I've done or I've seen done, I've never seen an issue.
Okay.
As
I
as
just
long as long as you're using the cleaner the way it's supposed to be.
Okay. Well, I was just kind of curious, I just wanted to kind of cover all of the different aspects of it, and that's why I kind of put a few different little variables in there with the engine bay. Now, what about the undercarriage? Um, I've seen people say you cannot use cleaners on the undercarriage. You should only use regular water. So that is one question I'm going to ask you, which I think is complete nonsense because I've seen detailers do it with no problem whatsoever. All they're doing is they're putting their cleaner into a big sprayer and they're spraying it on there, and then they're using sometimes little contraptions that are for undercarriages and all that to clean them out after the cleaner sat there for a little bit. So is it safe to use a cleaner on the undercarriage?
Yeah, I mean they use cleaners at those car washes, the ones that you run through the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
When people when you choose the undercarriage option, there's cleaner in that.
Right. But
And that's not as, that one's just in general, just sprays front to back. An actual detailer doing it is going to pick, not necessarily pick and choose, but that sounds like the best wording for it. They spray where they aim.
right.
They're putting the cleaners where they want it, basically, as opposed to just spraying everything and calling it good.
Right. So, but you think it's safe. It's just perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not, it's like on top, as long as you're not aiming water and cleaner straight at something at point blank. Like, don't point blank it to your brakes.
Oh, okay. Now I actually have a question about the brakes.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Most detailers will do this. When you have some really filthy barrels and wheels, they'll use an acid-based cleaner on the wheels. And I've actually seen several comments on this that you should never use those kinds of things near the brakes and the brake pads and all of that. Now, obviously, our goal coming in from the front is to get it on the wheel and get it in there on the barrel. But some people may come in and do it from the other side and put this cleaner on there, not aiming for the brakes or anything, but they're trying to get those barrels cleaned out. Is that something that is genuinely a concern? We should probably not do that.
I've never seen issues with me personally. I've never seen issues with cleaners getting on the brakes.
Okay.
If anything, if any damage was going to possibly be had, it would be that stuff staying on the rubber boot of the piston inside the caliper, which is very deep down in there. You'd have to actually like point blank spray it for it to get there, and that would just over time deteriorate the boot.
Oh, okay.
But if you're just spraying it on the wheel, if you spray it on the wheel and you rinse it off at the same time with water, then like for the ones that are spraying it like with the hose or whatever, you're spraying it right back off.
Okay. I only have one more question.
Hmm.
And this one, I think I've already asked you, but I wanted to make sure we got it on video. This was asked by one of my viewers. I've seen their name a few times in the comments, and I wanted to kind of address this just out of respect because I personally do not know how to answer the question. Is there a way to tell if a rim is clear coated?
There is, but I guess the best way to explain it would be, first off, you have to know. Trying to think of how to word that.
Maybe that's something you can show me.
Honestly, that would be something I'd have to really show you because it. Honestly, my experience has been with just kind of pick and choose wheels that are already falling apart, like the paint on it or the clear coat or whatever is already falling apart. So it's easy to tell that way.
Right, if you see it, yeah.
And that's one example I can show with my wheels. So maybe if we can get something, try to like throw in a video over me talking or something, just kind of.
Now, what about chrome? What about chrome? Do they put a clear coat on a chrome wheel?
I don't think so.
I don't
I
think
haven't
so
heard of it.
either. I've never heard of it either.
I think chrome is just like, well, majority of like wheels, the chrome it's dipped.
Right, that's what I would. That's what Grandpa and I were talking about. It's dipped.
That's why it peels off.
Yeah.
It looks
So,
flaky, and it's in with the with wheels being chrome, a chrome dip. When it flakes off, it's really thick, and it actually can it'll cut you. It don't feel very good.
no, oh, yeah.
That's why I don't barehand. If you have chrome wheels that are flaking, just clean them off the best you can. Don't do it barehanded though.
Now, I wouldn't even worry about the chrome wheels. They're probably not going to be coated or have a clear coat on them. But what about aluminum?
And that's where the difference with the machine matte finish and like the shiny finish, that's more where that comes from. Is I want to say your wheels, you can tell the difference. Um,
Really?
I think if I can remember right. If not, it was the wheels I used to have. Um, it's more of the face of it. The when it comes spokes, I guess
Okay.
that's just what I've always called them. Is like the main, like on your wheels, the main star
Right, right. I know what you mean.
is that one would be more. That area would be more likely to be clear coated, as opposed to the insides that curl over into the wheel. Those would not be clear coated.
Oh, the barrels would not be. Well, and I think
Not
I knew that
necessarily.
because I just did a ceramic coat on 4 BMW wheels. And, I used the cleaner to get the inside. They weren't on the vehicle.
Mhm.
I just sprayed the barrel and then I cleaned the inside of the barrel. And then I put a ceramic coat on it. And I'm not exactly sure what the point of it is, to be honest. Um, it doesn't make sense. But I mean, I guess if it's the goal is to keep the brake dust from gathering on the barrel, I guess I can see it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I was just kind of wanting to pose that question. Okay, so that is all the questions I have. Um, if anybody else has a question, please don't hesitate to comment below, and maybe I'll direct those to you if we happen to get one, Tori, and you can respond to it. And
Yeah. Or we can any questions that may come through can always make note of those and bring in bring those back for when we bring Scott in.
there you go. Oh no, maybe I'll do that. Oh, let's do that. Let's do that. If you have any questions, put them down below. And when we bring Scott into the mix, because I really want to see what he's got to say,
Because
um,
he's got years more on me. So
he's got a lot more years. He's been tinkering with this stuff since he was little bitty.
I think he's
So,
got at least 20 years of it. So
okay. So, I would say just put your comments below and we'll just kind of cover those on the next one. Okay. But thank you very much for taking the time to sit with me and maybe allowing me to ask these questions. I do appreciate it. I tried to do it when I was feeling okay.
well, you know
Uh,
what? Even though it's the middle of the night, we still got it done.
got it done. That's right. So anyway, um, thank you all for hanging out on my channel and for taking the time to hear Tori's thought process on this. And like I said, we will be getting Scott involved because the answers, he has a way of explaining things that is vastly different. And so I really
He's
want
better
Scott.
at it than me.
Yeah, I really want Scott. I want to pose this very same thing to
There you
him.
go.
I am. I'm gonna, and you know what? We're gonna do it where you are just sitting in the background and it's just me and him, and we'll see how that turns out. How
Uh,
about that?
that'd be fun. That sounds fun.
Yeah, so we can definitely see the two differences. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And until the next video, you know how it goes. Peace.